But I want to talk to you this morning for a few minutes about some success essentials. You know, when we came to this particular part of our time together, and I was really unsure whether or not that I was going to speak to you at all because everyone else is just absolutely so wonderful what's necessary for me. But I thought that it would be good if what we would do is that we would just spend a couple minutes talking about something that really in the PMs that you don't really talk about. You know, you have to have something going on throughout life. You can live your life, or you can go to church, or you can actually go to meetings all the time. But if you don't have these other parts to life, it's just not going to work. And so as we kind of try to confine ourselves either to leadership or to business or to becoming something, I want to talk to you about these essentials of success. So what are the things that cause a person, what are those things that cause a person to become successful? Are they descriptive? Can you actually describe what it causes a person to be successful? Can they be quantified, or what can we tell are the things that are important to success? Every person has to kind of figure out what is really important to them, what will cause them to be successful in the things that they do. Each and every thing. How many of you realize that a perfume or a cologne or an eau de parfum that you spray on different people smells different? So there's different things that actually cause you to be successful rather than me. But we have to work these things out kind of in somewhat the same way. So let's keep in mind that what makes you and I valuable, what makes you valuable is not necessarily what makes another person valuable. You're not valuable because you're like other people. You really only become valuable in an entire environment if you're not like other people. That's the reason why that the most beautiful girl in the room is the one that came from another country. So, somebody could be kind of raggy right here, and you can put him somewhere else, and all of a sudden everybody thinks she's the most beautiful thing on the face of the earth. So here are a few non-negotiables that we want to talk about. Now, anyone who knows these things is already successful, and let me tell you this, because it's true. The people that are already successful and understand these things are not necessarily people that want you to find them out. They're not really interested in being able to tell you all their secrets, because then they won't be secretive. They won't be a secret anymore if they told you what they are, and thus they would have to go off into something else to find out how that they became unique. Now, some of these things are familiar, but they're necessary. And so here's a number of different things. I put up 7 little thoughts that I thought would be good for you before we actually get to the thing that we came here for this morning. I thought I would settle you down. So here's number 1. If you're going to be a leader and you're going to be successful, you need to immediately drop the 9-to-5 mentality. You have to give it up. One of the greatest challenges that I have in my endeavor to be able to lead people is that they always have parentheses around what they want to be led with. But each and every person has different things that they need. You don't really know what you need to do with your life. You could be doing sit-ups, all day long, but yet eating popcorn the rest of the day. And you can't figure out why you can't get your stomach to go down. Man, I did 500 sit-ups today. I'm thinking, I'm kind of excited if you could do one. Because honestly, it doesn't look like you did 500 sit-ups today. Why is it? Because it's something else that they're doing. So a lot of times, doing something positively, you also have to take away something negatively. And so give up the 9-to-5 mentality. It doesn't work. The 9-to-5 mentality, I remember before I actually became a believer, one of the things that I prayed and I had asked God for, I said, Lord, and I didn't even know God. And I asked God, if you can imagine that. I actually asked the Lord, I said, Lord, I want to live my job, whatever it is. I have to live it. I can't just go to it. You've got to live it. You have to be ingrained. One of the things that to me that was the most difficult about sales is two things. Number one, you think that everybody knows what you know. And two is that you think you're beginning to push on other people very things that they don't need. And those were always difficult for me. But once I began to live something, it was easy for me to see that other people needed the very thing that I was attempting to achieve. I could figure that out. So drop the 9-to-5 mentality. Give up that schedule, no matter where you are. Here's just a reminder about it. Don't become the first one to come and the last one to leave. Now you think, well, gosh, up until now, that whole idea was that if you're really going to be a leader, you need to be the first one there and the last one to go. Yeah, but during the day sometime you need to have some time where you can repose or you can rest. You can't stay fresh for 12 or 14 or 16 hours straight. So give up that whole idea that you have to be the first one there and the last one to leave. You may want to be able to start your day just a little bit later than other people have to start their day so that you can actually work through what everyone else has to do. Or, on the other hand, you need to be there before anyone else does, but yet at the same time, you need to make sure that you're actually ending what you do and what you're responsible for a little bit quicker than other people, because you live everything you do. Somebody says, it's really interesting that people ask the question, well, oh, it's so good that you got a vacation. There is nobody who does what we do that ever gets a vacation. You mean, what are you talking about, a vacation? You mean, if what you're talking about, you see that the reason why you think that people get a vacation is because you have a job you can walk away from. When you can't walk away from your job, you never get a vacation. Your phone's always ringing, your computer's always filled with emails. And isn't it funny that the people didn't really get so carnal until you decided to leave? It's like all of a sudden what it was that, was that the crazy people all came out. And then, what's his name? That doll called Chucky or whatever it is. Chucky comes out, when you're there. So don't be the first one to come and the last one to leave. In the long run, that's what's going to ruin your productivity. See, you have to remember that productivity is the thing that you're after. When you're a leader, you want to be productive. It's not necessarily that you want to just be called the leader. You want to be productive in the very things that you're going to do. Here's number 2. Know your priorities. Know what your priorities are. This is tough. If you're a leader, you need to know your priorities. What are the things that you need to allow to stop you, to bother you, to get on your mind? And what are the things that you just cannot allow get near you? There are things that are difficult that you just need to ignore. Because you are going to find out that you are not everything to everybody. Or you're no good to anybody. So prioritize like there's no tomorrow. Or the lack of priority is actually going to begin to overwhelm you. The activities that are going to move you or your organization or your life forward, those are the things that need to be tackled first. It's like people consistently, I was just talking to Julian before we started, or we came out. We were talking about a purchase that he had to make. And of course, when you make purchases, usually what you need to do is give 50% up front when you're making these kind of purchases. But then all of a sudden, what somebody will do is they'll just start to try to get slick for you to give them the other 50% before they ever deliver. So now wait a second. Me first, 50%. You deliver, other 50%. See, because what happens is, in most cases, people begin to become over-invested. You're way too far into it, and when you're too far into it, you'll never be able to get out of it what you need to get out of it. And now you're kissing up on everybody, trying to get them to do what they're supposed to do. Prioritize. Know what they are. Know the things that you can't do. Remember, you've heard me say many times, or many of you have, you've heard me say many times that it is important to know who you are, but it is more important for you to know who you're not. Know who you're not as an individual. Don't be a person who just knows who you are. Know the things that you shouldn't do. Know the things that you need to stay away from. Here's why. The things that are not done that you should be staying away from, those are the things that make you miserable. Those are the things that make you unhappy. You need to leave those things alone. You need to just pretend like they don't even exist. But the things that you are supposed to be doing, your priorities, you make sure that yours is done 150% of what's necessary before you ever go and look at something that someone else has not done. Ignore it. That way you can be happy. If you don't ignore it, you'll never be happy. Because you'll never be thinking that you've ever done a good job. You'll never be thinking that you're out on top of anything. What you're doing is you're actually now upset over the fact of what isn't done that doesn't have anything to do with you. So know your priorities. Prioritize like there's no tomorrow. Make sure that you know the kind of things that you need to do, because of the lack of priorities are going to overwhelm you. It becomes like a tsunami when you haven't prioritized. So the activities that'll move you forward need to be tackled first, even if they're the hardest. A general at the Pentagon said this, interestingly, he said this. He said, first I make a list of priorities. He said, I make them 1, 2, and 3. And he said, whatever else is on the list, he said, I just take off the list. I just get rid of that stuff. Because if they become really necessary, they'll bubble to the top. They'll get there, and then they might be number 1 or number 2 tomorrow. But if you have like 7 things on a list and all you ever do is 3, and there's a lot of opinion about all of this. If you have 7 things on a list and you only do 3, then you failed. But if what you did was you have 7 things on a list, but you take 1, 2, 3, and you cut off the rest of them, you were a success. It's true. The difference in between success and failure is only metrics. It's only how you look at it. I can have so many victories about things, but then there's one person who just didn't get it. And then you spend your entire life thinking about the one person who didn't get it and all the people that ever did get it, and you're thinking, oh, Jesus. I have a friend, a really good friend, who actually told me last week, and he is in the battle for his life. He's in the midst of depression. And here's something that he told me. He said, I started thinking about all the people who come to meetings and they don't get it. You know what they call that? Depression. So Sunday night, all these people come up, instantly healed. All these people laid out on the floor. All these individuals get up and say, man, I can hear, I can see, I can do all these kind of things. And you know what people want to talk about? I wonder if the kid's going to get his arms and feet back.
That's right.
Or all of a sudden, finally, it was, I don't know, babe, what time was it? 9 something, 9:30, 9:45 something. And Billy keeps looking. He's looking at me. He's thinking, when do I need to?
Close it off.
Because the service started at 5 o'clock. It's 9:30. It's 9:30, and Billy's looking at me going, And I'm thinking to myself, don't bring this to me. I'm not doing this one. No. No. I'm not doing this. You want me to walk up there and for me to shut that meeting down when you have all these people standing in line all this time? Not a chance. And then all of a sudden what happens is that we then, instead of ministering to people one by one, we then bring everybody up in front. Everybody just gets pulled up in front. When they all get pulled up in front, then just all of a sudden it's kind of, it's a rodeo prayer. We're just going to lasso them little doggies, we're going to get those things all taken care of. Now, I think it's all great no matter what it is, but you end up thinking about all the people that are standing in line that they didn't get that personal ministry. Because that personal ministry helps a person really to begin to receive, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. All of a sudden, people that would never even think about bringing up their little kids. They run back into the children's department and they just start grabbing those kids, grabbing those babies, saying, Jesus is going to heal my baby. And then all of a sudden, prayer line's over. So this guy he's telling me, he said, I just keep thinking about this. And that's what they call depression. So what it is, know your priorities. Set how many that there will be. And then after that, don't think about it. God will bring those other things to your mind when the chance arrives. But until that time, just let it go. Know what your priorities are, because that general, what he said was absolutely wonderful. He said, every day he said, I set my priorities 1, 2, 3, and no matter how many are on the list, I just cut them off. I'm thinking, yeah, but what about that one about the red button? How can you cut off that one about the red button? He said, it'll just be here tomorrow. Don't worry about it. It'll be there. And then, number 3, hire the best talent. Now, best doesn't mean most expensive. As a matter of fact, best probably means not the most expensive. Because a person, here's something, and Dave would understand this. We're in one of the other things that I'm doing, they have what is it, and Tom would understand this too, that they have these things that they call funnels. Anyone understand what a funnel is? Okay, they have these funnels where what it is that it gathers names, right? Funnel gathers names, and what it does is it begins to actually filter out all of the people that contact you. So you start off, you give them a free book, and then what you do is you then bring them up to, you show them this, this product that has all your stuff on it. All your stuff. Like Dave's stuff here is, what is it, 100 and something bucks? Yeah, it's $300 here. How much do you sell that when you go and you speak? About 1,000. Yeah, and 1,000. So here in a church, what you do is you sell it for $300. You go out there, you sell it for $1,000. Guys sell stuff for $10,000, $20,000 out there in the market. It's like, and people buy it like it's hotcakes. You look at it and you go, Sam, shoot. You're thinking, man, and they just do. And it doesn't cost a guy a dime to do it. All it is like the click. You just click. And they just want to know that master's in control of your card. That's all they want to know. But so these funnels, so a guy says, Dave, I can't afford the $3,000. Man, I would love to. But then all of a sudden this funnel then takes him over to where there's a $2,000 product. And then he said, well, I can't do this $2,000 product. So all of a sudden then he's got a $49 product. And the guy goes, I want that. I want that. Man, and I'm there. And so then, how many of you get emails from people every day that you're not sure you want to get emails from every day? And then finally, at first it was requested by you, but now it's spam.
Yeah.
And then half the time you feel bad because you keep deleting it, and when you delete it, you're not sure if you want to get rid of it. You're just kind of deleting it, at least for today. But we had to have some of these funnels, 2 funnels done. Kathleen had to get a couple funnels done. And we had heard about these people that, they came well recommended and all this kind of stuff. And these guys were going to be great. And it was going to be super. So they sent me a proposal for $20,000 for a funnel. Funnel only costs $1,500. So hiring the best doesn't mean you hire the most expensive. That funnel isn't going to work any better. A $20,000 funnel doesn't work any better than a $1,500 funnel. Hiring the best doesn't mean hiring the most expensive. But when it comes down to staff and people that are around you, staff yourself to your own weaknesses. Be willing to be the dumbest guy in the room. When you're the dumbest guy in the room, that proves that you're the smartest guy in the room, because you were able to get smarter people in that room than you were. They weren't there to get something from you. They were actually there to give something to you. And so really make sure that you get yourself to the place to where all the people that you have surrounding you are smarter than you in the very thing that you have employed them or hired them or contracted them for. Do you know that not only comes in business or in leadership in church, it also comes in relationships. Market yourself so well that you're able to marry above yourself, to have friends that are smarter than you, to have people around your life that actually will make you better and not make you bitter.
Amen.
Because unless you do, what ends up happening is that you are actually staffing yourself with people that need you rather than you needing them. And you'll live your life always as the nurturer.
That's right.
And you can't. If you're going to go forward, you can't live your life always as the person who's giving more in the relationship than they're getting. Because if a person in relationship, if a person ends up giving more than the other individual in relationship, the person who gives more begins to be resentful. And there's offense. But the person who gives less becomes the individual who knows how to take advantage of the system, because they realize that you don't want a divorce on your record. And so they know that you're going to tolerate anything that they want to throw at you because they know you won't do anything about it. Do you understand how that balance works? Amen. So you've really got to staff yourself and then live up and live beyond the expectations that other people give you. So staff yourself to your own weaknesses. In leadership, don't just kind of recruit people who are just like you as far as being a leader's concerned. Because all they want is they want your job. Then number 4 is listen to yourself. Because you believe in yourself more than anyone else ever does. Now, what's really interesting is start choosing the way that you want to listen to you. That might be with a kind of different help app that they have out there. It may be the way that you like reminders. Rick likes reminders on his phone. Every hour, Rick's phone goes off, and he worships God every hour as a reaction. Which scripture did you get that from?
About 7 times a day I'll praise
7 times a day I'll praise you. So every hour. And there's there's apps that just tell you, in your timer. There's even some in Buddhism, they just have these, these little bells that go off. Ding. I should tell you my massage story about that. Ding. And so every hour, or 7 times a day, 7 times a day, Rick has that go off. You're just sitting there and all of a sudden, dong, and then just, Father, we just want to thank you. You are so great. We're so grateful. We're so blessed. So how do you want to listen to you? You have to listen to you. How do you want to be communicated? No one will communicate with you better than you. Because everyone else thinks that you don't communicate, they don't understand you, they don't get you. But what it is that you get you. That's what's really important. You need to get you. Like if you don't get you, they call that crazy. They just, So you have these apps and all these things that help you actually really become better and communicate to yourself in a better way. Every day, YouVersion sends you out the verse of the day. Like even for a little Gabriel. Gabriel sends me about every day a different thing. In the Madison Heart Cell and Marky and Abby, what they do is they actually put together these verses on these backgrounds and they send me these verses. Every day. And so, how do you want to be communicated with? Well, will you be my friend on, will you be my friend on whatever? By the way, I don't do Facebook or any of that stuff, but on YouVersion or the Bible app, yeah, I'm in. And so the kids, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll just put a verse that they heard me speak. They'll put that verse on a background for me and just give me that background. How do I want to be communicated with? How do you want to communicate to yourself? Find out how people want to be communicated with and do that. That's what makes you delightful. Don't turn around and say, well, this is the way I want to do it. You got to accept me like I am. If I'd have known you'd have been that way, I wouldn't have accepted you at all. The reason why that I accepted you was because I thought you were the way that I thought that you were. That makes sense, right? I thought that you were that way, but you're not that way. Now all of a sudden what it was that you're telling me you were lying about it. No, well then I was lying when I said what I said too, So listen to yourself because you believe in you. You'll believe in the things that you say and the way you want to be communicated with more than anyone else. Number 5. Number 5 is use the 2-minute rule. Or in another way, I would call that do it now. Anything that can be done in 2 minutes, do now. Some things take a longer amount of time, but for the most part, you just figure this out. Anything that you can do shorter, then do it. And do it right away. That's the reason why that if you don't hear from me when you contact me or text me or email me, it's because I'm not at my computer. Because if I can answer you in less than 2 minutes, it doesn't become like a toothache. So I can answer you right away if I can answer it. Now, if I don't answer it, everyone knows this. I'm really thinking through and not sure how I want to approach responding to you. And you guys who email me, you understand that that's the way I am. And I don't like face-to-face conversations. I don't like to be communicated with face-to-face. The reason why is because of what the Apostle Paul said. He said that when I get to be with you, he said, God melts my heart. And then I can't tell you the truth. He used it like this. God humbles me in your presence. And so, how many of you that Jesus came to you and told you this morning, you saw him in a vision, that he came to you and he told you what you were supposed to wear today? See, Dave, just, all right, now you started it, okay? That was not what you wanted to do, especially since Christine ordered that shirt and had it sent to you. So now we think that Christine is Jesus. No, forget that. Forget it. That's the thing. For me, I'm not a face-to-face person because I want to think through what you say. Well, yeah, but I want to talk to you face-to-face. Well, wait a minute. How would you like to... If you want to talk to me face-to-face, that's selfish. If you want to talk to me in the way that I want to be communicated with, don't spring it on me. Give me a chance to think it through. Because that's the way I want to be communicated with. I don't want to all of a sudden, man, have a sneak attack every time that I walk into a room. I don't want to, you start getting paranoid. You're sitting around thinking, what are people thinking? So use the 2-minute rule. Anything that you can do quickly, do it now. Your emails, your text messages, all that stuff. Get it done. Number 6 is get used to eating the frog first. There's actually a book that was titled, Tom, what's the title of that book? Eat the Frog? Eat the Frog? Yeah. And eating the frog just means, how many of you have ever, I'm not talking about frog legs, I'm talking about frog. People start going, ugh. Well, see, there are things that you hate to do. Do the thing you hate to do early in the morning, because that's when you have the most strength. It's when you have the most determination. You got the most desire. So eat the frog. Just eat it. Yuck. Just eat the frog first. So, get used to doing the thing that you don't want to do first thing in the morning. Deal with that. Deal with that. And then, lastly, number 7, never, and this is one of the things I appreciate about Dave, is that never underestimate the power of momentum. If you remember Newton's law, probably the most famous Newton's law of all, is that an object in motion will tend to remain in motion until a greater motion comes against it, right? And that's what momentum is. Once you get things going, don't stop them. Never underestimate the power of momentum. It is positive or negative. Momentum is positive or negative. If you get in to, crying poor mouth, being negative, man, that momentum will pick up. And you'll never be able to be free from it. But if, let's say that you're always positive and you run on and you've got the momentum of positivity going, and all of a sudden a negative thing happens, it doesn't stop you from being positive. Momentum will carry you through the difficulties that you feel. And so there's just a few things that I was thinking about this morning, and I thought that I would just talk with you about those things. So I wanted you to be able to take some of those things and use them. I just, honestly, folks, I don't think when you come to church that everything that you need to hear has to just do with a Bible verse. Now, the Bible is the most important thing, and the intake of Bible doctrine is the greatest thing, that contributes to the life of a believer. But I don't want you going outside and picking up everything and spending all of the things spending all of the finances that God gives you just so that you can find a hole in that wall of success that you can squeeze through. I think here in your home, in the church, is where people need to learn how to break the bands of wickedness, of failure, of discomfort off their lives. And they will. I believe you will. Did you get something out of this morning? Yes. Praise the Lord. I know Solomon's was awesome. Solomon's was awesome. I don't know if the helicopter came and picked him up or where he went, but he was great. And so, hey, Dave, why don't you come on up? What we're going to do is we're actually going to answer some of your questions on leadership and business, and then I'm going to call on some of the people that we have sitting here that I really believe that can answer the questions that are important. And Jack, are you going to run the mic around for us? Yeah, somebody's got it. He's got it. Whoop. Oh, I'm sorry. Somebody's got it. Right. Chris, you got it? Great. You guys got it. Chris and Eric got it. Okay, Jack, you're off. You're fired. All right. Come on, Dave. Come on.
Side you want me?
Which is your good side?
They're both really pretty good. That's why I was giving you a choice.
You know that. Well, here's the thing. That's one thing that keeps you from being a two-faced Christian. You know, you have to be able to go at the same level as the people that you're with. You know, you really, really do. But thanks, Dave. Thank you so much. Thanks for last night, and that was great. And I don't really, I don't know personally anybody that would really talk about the kind of things that you do, the unique way that you face off with things, the way that you get us kind of to eat the difficult truths about life. I'm very appreciative of. But we want to talk about these things. I mean, there are people. We have live viewers right now that are watching, and and we really appreciate you guys being here. But Dave and I are going to discuss these things about leadership and about business that'll be real helpful. So let me just kind of start. And I've got a couple, a few guys that are out here that I really want to call on as well. So what would you consider to be the way that you develop others into leadership roles? How do you get people from being people that are in seats to actually becoming leaders?
Well, through one of the things you really teach is mentorship, and finding those people. First of all, they've got to find in themselves that they feel where their leadership is, their gift is. And I think people have to want it before you can really give it to them. We can try to make people leaders, but I think it starts with you can develop them, but it starts with them wanting it. And so I think it comes through time, through mentorship, through being a leader yourself. You've got to lead them. You can only reproduce what you are. So I think it's an old John Maxwell book, Developing the Leader Within You Before You Can Develop the Leaders Around You. And so I think for me to develop leaders around me, I got to keep developing myself as a leader.
Mm-hmm. That's really true. The challenge that we have now is that there are so many things that are drawing upon people and upon their time and the amount of time that they have to be able to contribute to the scenario. Do you have kind of like just kind of like a little hint about how do you handle it when what you need to do is that you need to actually cause people to come up, maybe that in some ways don't necessarily really want to come up.
I mean, like in the church setting.
Well, yeah, I mean, or even at the,
Like
you know, in
volunteer
the
leadership type of
workplace.
thing.
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, it's, as you know, in the workplace, of course, you have money as an impetus or, you know, a stimulus. But here in the, well, we'll just call it the nonprofit or the volunteer arena. How would you think that, let's say you got a great organization, but you're not finding people that really are wanting to step up to become that leader? You got any ideas about
Yeah,
that?
I think in that kind of arena, I think sharing vision is the most important key to getting people to step up, is getting them behind something bigger than they are. No, what you're a part of is bigger than the part you play. You know, saying, hey, here's a vision, here's where we're going. I think that will cause people to step up. If they know where they're going, it's something that they are called to or find purpose in. I think is really vital these days, especially in the younger generation. 40 and younger is all about what's the purpose, what are we trying to solve, where's our more than just I'll do it because, you know, like in the church room, more than just because pastor wants me to. They've got to have a purpose with it. And I think anytime there's purpose, whether it's our finances, whether it's our time, whether it's our talent or anything, we rise up when there's vision and purpose to get behind.
Yeah, I think that's so, that's also valuable. I think one of the other things that you need to understand about causing people to come up into leadership is an invitation, that you invite them to it. Because in Christianity, just because that's where we are right at this moment, in Christianity, you don't ever have to volunteer for anything because most everyone else will take a step back. You know, and so well, I've seen that to be true. And so you can actually see a leader that you can develop. You can choose, you can focus on a person who is a would-be leader, and you can call that leader out of them.
That's good.
You know, and so most people now, they don't necessarily want to volunteer. So, but if you find somebody that could be or a would-be or a could-be leader, what you do is that you call that person out. And the reason why that I see that in addition to these things is because Jesus invited everybody. Anybody that ever came to Jesus, and you think about it, it's at least 50% of it. Anyone that ever came to Jesus and said, I want to be with you, I want to follow you, I want to do this, Jesus would tell them, no. But then all of a sudden what you do is you'd see him like go for a walk and find some guy and says, hey, come on, I want to do that. And so there, as well as, and I think that what Dave has said to me is the quintessential way to handle it, just the greatest way. And that is with desire, casting vision, and giving people that. But also, you're going to find that there are going to be people that are going to be so busy in their life that they don't think that they have the time to be a leader, when the truth of the matter is that they may not have the time for it, but they need it, and they are called to it. Okay? So those are just kind of a couple things, and what are the main
And
goals?
people find time when it's something that
Well, you're right, they do. And you know, you always have time for what you want to have time for.
Right.
You always talk to the people you want to talk to. You know, the people that you don't want to talk to, you know, I have this thing with doctors, right? I think anytime a doctor comes in your life, they're there to mess things up. Everything else, everything was just working just fine. Doctors come into your life, and all of a sudden now what it is that they're like spiders. They build webs, and they have all their spider friends they bring with them. You turn around and you say, hey, do you know anybody? They go, oh, yeah. I got half a dozen guys. And people find, like Dave said, people find time. They find time to lead. When you give them love, they find time to be able to lead. And then, Dave, what do you think are the main goals in leadership?
I would say that the main goal would be, of course, to lead. In leadership, we want to show people where to go. We want to give them direction, but we also want to help empower them to empower others. I think a lot of times we find in leadership that we don't give them the power to make decisions themselves. And so I think empowering leaders to in their area of expertise, whatever it may be, to lead is vital, is the goal for me, to empower my leaders to lead so that I don't have to sit and manage every little thing they do. I want to trust them, give them the information, give them the training, and then let them lead.
Yeah, and I think one of the things about that, empowerment is like amazing, but I think a lot of times what happens is that people sometimes can actually misconstrue empowerment or misunderstand or transfer the term empowerment into ownership. That a lot of times when you empower someone, they think that you can't talk to them about it anymore. Like, how dare you say anything about this? Because you empowered me to do it. And if that's my job, then you shouldn't want to say anything about it. No, wait a second. I just lent this to you. I didn't give it to you, I didn't. And that's when you need to know about empowerment. Empowerment means that you actually have been put in the slot. Like if Dave empowers you for something, you're actually standing in the slot that Dave would stand in, would you not be there? You're empowered to do that. You are without form, and then all of a sudden he empowered you to do something. But you always have to remember that empowerment is not authority, it is delegated authority.
Understanding ownership and authority. Yeah. I want my leaders to take ownership of their position or what I've given them, but still to understand the authority of that and the process.
And they need to understand. Once again, you need to understand what your role is and what your role is not in the arena of leadership. Every one of you in this room, by virtue of you being here, or even watching on Facebook right now, by virtue of all of that, you are a leader. You are. It may be at varied places, but you're still a leader. I mean, Jesus didn't die so that he could have a whole bunch of people that would never want to do anything. Even if you receive the vision to go into all the world, you're still a leader. You're still a leader about it. So those couple things. Here's another question. What do you do with a team member? Now, this is interesting. I just want to let you know, I did not write this about you. What do you do with a team member who has bad chemistry with the rest of the team? Other than firing them.
Other than firing them.
Yeah. You can't use firing.
You're fired.
Yeah.
That's a really difficult thing to do without firing them. I kind of like that option. Of course, they're sitting down with them individually, talking to them, trying to help them understand their their weaknesses or the areas that they could change to come up along with the team, or finding them in a position where, or moving them into a position where they don't have to deal as much with the other people, and that's kind of putting a Band-Aid on it. But I think they really they're going to have to learn to step up and be, if they're going to be on the team, they got to be part of the team. I think any part of success in any organization is going to be the team working together. I was just spent about every 6 weeks I have breakfast with this guy, Lee Cockrell, who used to run Disney World. And he ran all, 4 parks, 280-something restaurants,
How many employees
18
did they have?
hotels. Well, that was an interesting thing I asked him, because I was talking about how clean they keep everything. Everything's clean all the time. You see these guys walking around sweeping, and I said, so how many people are on the team that just clean? Just make sure trash is picked up. You never see anything. You got those guys sweeping. And he said, we got about 70,000 people that keep things clean. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. I said, how many people work at Disney? He said, about 70,000 people. And because he said, he said, I'll walk through. If I see a piece of garbage, I pick it up as the vice president, just as the guy sweeping, because we're a team. And so you step into other people's area of expertise to understand what the team is. And so I think the teamwork is everyone working together. So if someone can't work with other people, they're not part of the team.
You put them on garbage duty?
I think I think the only option may be to look for a different team.
Actually, we had a friend, a guy who was on the board when our church first started. His name was Bob, and Bob was the senior vice president for Union Pacific Railroad. That's a great guy. And I asked Bob about this same question, and he said, well, and this was before that I could head off at the pass just firing somebody. He said, well, what we do is we release the people to the industry for relocation. I said, Bob, that's pretty good. Othniel, do you think, Chris, can you come up a couple rows here and hand the microphone to Othniel? Othniel, do you have any thoughts about this? Because I know just a little bit about kind of the stuff that you and Omira have been through over the years. How do you shift with people? Because anytime you shift people in the church world, they always affect somebody else. Evil never leaves alone. It leaves with a team. It builds a team, so. What do you think?
Well, I think that we put too much emphasis in chemistry, honestly. In my team, I think that instead of looking for chemistry, we should still look for a cohesive group of people that will know how to deal with each other. If you do your job and you are part of the team because you are doing your job, maybe I don't like some of your attitude, maybe I don't like all your ideas, maybe I cannot go out to lunch with you, but you are part of the team doing the job. The things that sometimes we just want people to like each other and to be friends, and friends don't necessarily mean doing an excellent job. I have 8 people in my, what we call senior staff, and some of them, 2 or 3 of them don't get along, and I know, and we sit down, it's tense sometimes, they criticize each other, but each of them have learned to respect each other for what they contribute to the team. So, I don't pretend for them to be going out to lunch together. I don't want them going to lunch together. One of the things that make me happy is if one of them leave, the other one will stay because they don't like each other. So, I think that sometimes we try in our teams to have everyone love each other, and I think that it's better to look for people to have respect for everybody else's job instead of chemistry. Mm-hmm. If you only deal with people that you love, you will never grow in life. and that's it. You
Well,
know?
I don't have that problem, so,
So I have that problem every week in my senior staff meeting, and I.
did you ever
people-
have one of those problems on like a board that you had on a
Well,
on a
but
board?
that's a different problem that you are referring to. That he's referring to someone that but it was, I threatened him that I was going to, kick his butt. But that's a different board. But that's a Latino board, something that's.
That's a Latino
gets
board.
passionate, I told that guy I will go out and I will walk around the church. I give you 10 minutes. If you stay here, I will, drag you out. So, but that's a different thing.
I think that even part of it was, I
He
think
was
part
not
of
part
it,
of the team.
and he was not, yeah, he just wasn't, he wasn't a team player.
He was
That's,
not.
he was not a team player. Thanks.
But
thanks.
actually, you know what? I respect that guy, even though we had that problem, because he was playing the part of the team that he was supposed to play, the things that the team changed. That example, he was playing the team part. He was being a team member of the old team, and he was playing the right part. But he had to understand that this was a new team. And if he had understood that this was a new team, I will actually love to keep him, because a guy like that knows how to play his part of the team. But again, he did not understood that the team shifted and the team leader shifted.
So he was on the wrong team, but he had the
He
right
was-
uniform.
Exactly. That was the problem of him, of that guy specifically.
Yeah, because sometimes you could just like drag a guy down the stairs and just tell him up. No, thank you. Thanks, man. Thanks. James, what do you think about this? That was great, wasn't it? Thank you. Eric, Pastor James. James, what do you think of this?
Thanks, Dr. Robb. Something came to mind when I listened to you talk. I think in some cases the definition of leadership is too narrow, and sometimes we mistakenly identify leadership in terms of popularity, in terms of skill, in terms of even likability and certain other factors. And I think that a key part of leadership is manipulation in a good way. I think we associate a negative connotation to manipulation, but manipulation simply means to be clever. And I think that we need clever leaders, that when these problems arise, I think the test of the authenticity of your leadership is whether or not you can be clever enough to figure out a resolution. And in some cases, it's easy to fire people. I think in some cases, it shows a weakness on our ability as leadership to get rid of the problem as easily as we can. We ignore it. But to actually, to take a redemptive approach and to seek to win that person, especially as Christian leaders, our God is a redeemer. So I oftentimes take those things on as challenges in terms of whether or not I can press in and challenge my own leadership ability enough to win and to righteously manipulate a good outcome. And I think that's the thing that separates average leaders from great leaders, is your ability to manipulate any situation. And what better person, what greater call for any Christian than to go into the darkest, hardest situation. I tell leaders sometimes, pray that God would deliver you from an easy life. I think we tend to pray for comfort. We tend to pray for peace. We tend to pray for the easy route. But we should be praying for the difficulty and the hardest cases so that the world can see that Christians have an ability and a skill set and a grace that the world does not have. That is where you rely on the anointing to manipulate that situation, to do the impossible, and to show that with men it's impossible to fix this situation, but with God all things are possible. So bring on the greater challenges, because I know the one that has empowered me to successfully, righteously manipulate that situation, to see a victory where the world is normally not capable to do that. I think Christians, we need to shift in our mindset.
Yeah, and the word manipulate there, the word manipulate is really actually a much better word than most people would think that it is. Because even when you go to a doctor, you go to a chiropractor, what they do is that they manipulate your bones and the position that they're in. They manipulate your muscles in order to caused those bones to actually come back together the way that they need to come back together. Even for Lamorris, I mean, Lamorris sees that all the time with the pro football players, that these guys have to have their muscles manipulated in order for them not to live walking around with cramps every day. They just have got to stay and have their muscles worked on and worked on and worked on. And as leaders, the greater the leader that there is, usually the most eccentricities that they have. And they don't know necessarily how. They're not mutts. They're pedigrees. And when you're a pedigree at something, that means that you have a portion of your life that has a blindness to it. That's really, really true if you think about that, is that the better you are at something causes you to actually be blinder about something else. A person that's kind of like really good at a lot of things, they're not really good at anything. They're kind of good. That's one of the problems that I have. I'm kind of good about a number of things, but really good? No, I'm only a number 2 in my ability. I understand that. But where I came from was like 14th. So that wasn't so bad. I feel okay. I mean, you know, but that's where what's important is, like James said, that a real skillful leader will be able to manipulate the situation in order not only, not necessarily for harmony, which is what Othniel said, is that not for harmony, but actually to be able to make the rough places plain and the difficult things easier. Here's a question for you, Dave.
One last thing on that just was, again, you mentioned sports, and any kind of team, it all goes back to vision. If we have the same vision, the same goal, you get a basketball team, you got 5 different players on that team that have different personalities. Some of them don't even get along, but when it comes to game time, they know where the goal is. They know they're trying to win the championship, and so they figure out a way to work together because the vision and the goal of where they're headed. So
Yep.
I think, again, presenting vision to the team is really what raises up those people.
Yeah, and a lot of times you can't even tell the reason why a team will get rid of this absolutely superb player. And the reason why is because his goal on that court is different than the goal of the rest of the guys that are out there. You know, some guys are football players, man, these guys are unbelievable athletes. Unbelievable. You think that these guys have got to be bionic. They're just not even real. They're not human. But yet at the same time, if they cannot master realizing that the moment that they tie their cleats is the moment that I don't care what I have against you. I don't care whether I like you or whether I don't. I'm going to pass you the ball, and you're going to run it across the goal line. That's what we're going to do. And it's true, isn't it? Let me give you one more question. Then what we're going to do is we're just going to take about 10 minutes worth of questions from you guys. But how do you admit, this one's for you, this one says Dave on it. How do you admit and fix a problem in leadership?
Like a problem I have?
Well,
someone else's
how do you,
problem.
I could have said it like this. How do you admit when you're wrong, Dave? I could have said it like
I
that.
don't know. It's not happened yet.
That's right. I'm right 98% of the time. The other 2%, who cares about that?
I don't have to admit it. My wife points it out to me. I think
Only because she loves you, Dave. Only because she loves you.
I think for me, because I think I don't have a problem admitting when I make a mistake or do. I worked around a lot of leaders in the past who never admitted their mistake. Even if they were wrong, they would still be right. And I think humility helps you admit that. And I'm really proud of how humble I am. So
That's the one thing that's endeared me to you.
No, I don't have a problem. I think everybody makes mistakes, and it's coming back from those mistakes that makes all the difference. I mean, I wrote a whole book about that. So I'm easy to admit, hey, I missed it on that. Let's go back around. Let's get it right. So I don't have an issue with that too much.
Although I didn't expect you to. Doll, you want to say something, babe? Chris? Give it to Linda.
So then, Dave, how do you get, once you see your mistake and you talked about getting back up from those mistakes, what would you say are some key things in getting back up when you've made a mistake? Like a big, thing that everybody knows. Even if it's big or not, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think I might have mentioned last night. 'Cause of course, the bigger you are, the higher up in leadership you are, the more your mistakes are noticed. It's like, again, a sports analogy of a basketball player misses a shot. Well, first we see the shot, we're like, man, that was bad. He really missed it. But in case you didn't catch it, they're going to put it up on the big screen. And we're going to see it again and see how bad it was. And then they're going to put it in slow motion and play it like 3 more times. And then they'll play it on the news. And then
it's on ESPN.
Tomorrow on
and
ESPN 4 times. Over and over, your mistake is broadcast. And so that's why it's a quote, I think I said it last night, I can't remember, by Kobe Bryant. He said, you can't let the fear of failure or the fear of criticism keep you from trying again. And so defeating the fear of failure the fear of failure, that you're going to make a mistake, you're going to mess up, is one way to get back up, is to just get over that fear of that. But criticism as well. So many people are so intimidated by criticism, what other people are going to say. And so just is in getting back up from that mistake is having the confidence, the boldness to be able to say, hey, I did make the mistake. I want to fix the mistake. And let's get together and figure out, all right, let's fix it. You know what? I said this is going to be the way to go. This is going to work. It didn't work. Hey, let's try something else.
What about when it comes to Christianity and it's, a sin, we'll call it sin, but I mean, when you've fallen and, you're having a hard time getting back up, or how do you face things like that? Because when you make a mistake like that, when you're
A personal mistake.
Yeah.
In a personal mistake, again, that's where, thank God for the word and those kind of things. You have the grace, understanding of grace, and be able to walk out those, those mistakes. I mean, I've made big mistakes in my personal life too. But again, it's just having the confidence to know, the call of God's on your life, the grace of God's on your life, and you just keep going forward toward the goal, the high calling. And I don't know. For me, I've never had a hard time getting back up, and I don't know if it's just because of I just really believe the word. I believe what the word says, and so I have the confidence to walk out any mistake I made because of His grace on my life. And so, and I don't just mean my life personally, but just the grace of God's on all of our lives. And so, I just, for me, it's not a hard thing for me to do. And so, walking someone else through that, again, is just trying to give them the word, trying to give them the confidence of who they are in Christ, and knowing who you are in Christ, not just have a confidence, but a Godfidence, makes it a difference for me, because my position in life is determined by my position in Christ. So, again, that's why if I can get people to understand who they are in Christ, they can walk out those mistakes.
Yeah, and you need to have that, you need to make sure that you have that marriage. A lot of times what people can do is that they can actually believe who they are in Christ, but never able to translate that into who they are and what they do. And you have to be able to translate that over. You can't just say, well, hey, I believe the word, and not be able to translate that over into how you act from there. And when Dave mentioned about it's really not hard to get back up because I still, have confidence in believing that what he's already said is true. For a moment there, somehow my vision got blurred about what that was, and the pressures of life become greater than that confidence that I had. But yet at the same time, it still remains to be true. And so it is easy for me to get back up because it's not necessarily that I've seen myself never fallen. It's that I see myself as having an advocate, which is with the Father, the righteous Jesus. So let's just open this up. Do you have kind of a few questions? I think, Julian, you had a question, right? No, we answered it for you? Okay, great. Does anybody have a question that we can answer for you this morning before I, Marky?
As a leader of an organization, what do you wish your leaders under you would take care of on a day-to-day basis? Like, what would you like to see them do to settle conflict, commiserating, grumbling, so that you're not the one always having to deal with things? I understand that there's a pecking order and that things work themselves out. But some people tend to just say, it's not my issue, it's not my department, I'm going to stay out of it. But what do you wish that your leaders would do to settle and resolve conflict so that it's not always the person at the top having to get involved?
Good.
He was asking you.
Oh, he's asking me? I thought he was asking you. I was waiting to hear your answer. That's going to be good. What do I wish they would? I wish they'd quit doing that. I wish they'd quit doing that. That's what I wish they'd do. I mean that's sounds pretty simple, but that's really what I wish they would do, is figure out how to work it out. I wish they would step up as the leaders they're supposed to be and figure that out. And so my job as the top leader is to get their leadership to step up in their highest ability as leaders. And in that, they need to figure out how to resolve that as leaders. So my training them as leaders raises them up to be able to train the people under them to resolve those issues. So it flows down, but it starts with me learning how to resolve it with them and teaching them, not just doing it all the time, but walking them through conflict and resolve, understanding conflict and resolve, so that they can, again, duplicate that to the people that are under them. And it's pretty simple, but I'm a pretty simple guy. Does that answer the question?
Yes, you are.
That's very simple.
There's probably a couple things for me, and the first thing is service. That in the world, people who are leaders believe that they are over everybody, and in our environment, and with Jesus as our example, we believe that there is no one underneath us, that we are the servant of all. So service would be the first thing that I would be interested in. The second thing would be what the Bible talks about of growth in every area, and it has to do with what the Bible calls one accord. Is that one accord needs to be sought after no matter what. That we come to a place to where there is no strife, because, and Linda uses this verse often, where there's envy and strife, there's confusion and every evil practice. So you want to deal with that confusion, you want to deal with that envy, you want to deal with those personality issues. And so service and one accord. And number 3 would be that the team is more important than any one of its members. that we, and Dave masterfully and Othniel talked more about that masterfully than I could, and that the team is really important. The team is what's important. We are a team here. We have a vision. We have a vision that's been given to us by our Father. We carry out his family business. Jesus said, didn't you know I'd be about my Father's business? We're out there doing those things which we know to do. So what I would like to see in my leaders, I'd like to see them serve instead of thinking that they need to be served. But at the same time, that they need to realize that as leaders, their service changes. They're not always about getting everybody else some Franco-American SpaghettiOs. That is not what servanthood is. When Jesus served, the Bible said that Jesus served the people, but I never saw Jesus get anybody a drink. I saw him ask for one, but I never saw him get anyone one. So service is not necessarily, because we funneled that down, and we've tunneled it down pretty well to where that if you're going to serve, that means that you put on an apron, you stay in the kitchen, you make sure that all of the plates get set up. But no, what people don't even like for a week like this, with all the people that we have that come and that go, and many of you are here that are here from out of town, what people don't understand, that my service to everyone else is only successful if your service is correct in you taking care of what jurisdiction that you've been given. But my service has to do with making sure that I talk with everyone, making sure that no one has a need, making sure that I spend the time to make people feel like that they're important, to make sure that I don't believe that there's anyone that is any better than they are in any area of life. I make sure that people realize that to Linda and I, you, every one of you, is the only person that matters in the entire world to us. All of the rest of the world goes blurry to Linda and I when we see you. And so that's service. Service isn't just, you want a nice tea. That's not service, because what I give to people in my service is what no one else can give them. And so serving is important. The team is important. I'm willing to put down my personal feelings in order to be able to uplift, the rest of the team, to make everyone successful. My momentary discomfort must never overshadow the success of the team. I must be willing to give up part of my life and what I consider to be important to me in order to make sure that the team gets where it needs to go. Because unless I do, you don't realize the part that you play in other people's lives. It's much more serious than we think. But those are just a few things that Dave and I could, and the guys, thanks guys for chiming in and helping. But this morning, that's what we wanted to do. We just wanted to be able to give you to put some meat on the bones. All of us here are believers. And yes, we are. But we also face very unique challenges as well. And maybe one of the things that will be able to help me go through one of the challenges that I face. I really appreciated walking by Othniel this morning on my way in. I just give him a hug on my way up. And he told me he was just looking, at numbers. For Othniel and Elmira, that they have probably, actually, yes, you do, the most resilience and the most bounce back ability of anyone that I know in my life. And that is one of the things that has caused Linda and I to love you as much as we do, because of that. And so he looks at numbers on a piece of paper. That doesn't bother him. That's just another day. It's just, hey, whatever it is. You know, some people would just be pulling their hair out, screaming that your building's on fire, or hoping that somebody burned it down. I just, but for them, man, they take that stuff in stride, because that's the gifting that God has placed upon their life. And once we are able to mesh our giftings with one another and each other, that's what God calls his family. Isn't that true? Didn't you enjoy that this morning? Wasn't that great? Thank you, Dave. Thanks so much.